Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere cold, damp, and absolutely terrible. You're waking up in a small French village in the middle of the 14th century, and the first thing you notice isn't the frost on your blanket or the aching emptiness in your belly. It's smoke. Thick gray, acrid smoke curling through the cracks in the wooden shutters of your home. You shove open the door and squint into the dawn haze. Across the lane, your neighbor's cottage roof is ablaze, set alight by the poor woman's desperate attempt to bake something resembling bread out of rye chaff and powdered bark. This isn't rare. In fact, it's happening more often lately. Fires, accidents, sick animals, missing children, all part of the same nightmare. You live in the year 1316, deep in the grip of what history now calls the Great Famine, a relentless climate disaster mixed with war, crop failure, and political stupidity. Honestly, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You press forward toward the fire, scarf pulled over your mouth, dodging crowd already forming. The family's dog howls, leaping at the smoke. Someone shouting for water, but the village was frozen over again. Rye, once the fallback grain, is a curse this year. It's gone damp in every granary. Even dried, it's growing ergot fungus, a poison. You remember last week when old Martin saw God riding a goose and tried to drown himself in the laundry trough. Historians still argue whether the mass hysteria was religious mania or hallucinogenic rye. You just call it Tuesday. The bread you ate yesterday tasted like mold and regret. You're still alive, so maybe it was just mold. As the fire burns lower, blackened timbers collapsing inward, you notice how many people are standing here just staring, not helping, not talking, just quiet. That's how the village feels these days. Silent, hollow, like everyone's breath is being rationed. You shuffle away from the scene, boots crunching thin frost, back toward your family's hut. The sky is a lid of gray pewter, clouds so low you feel like you could poke a hole through them with a stick. And the smell, not just from the fire. There's a smell that never leaves now. Sour sweat, rotting straw, and that unmistakable scent of death somewhere not quite fresh. You try not to think about what or who it could be. Inside, your mother's awake, trying to nurse the baby, who is crying again. Not a loud wail, just a tired, hoarse whimper. Even the babies are starving quietly now. Your little sister holds out her hand. You place a single boiled nettle in her palm. She eats it like it's a delicacy. You look around your single-room cottage. There's a broken wheel in the corner that used to be part of your father's cart. A pot hanging over the cold hearth. A few scraps of cloth. No flour, no grain, no meat. But you have firewood, a treasure. You light a few twigs and watch the small flame catch. It's the only warmth you'll get today. A knock at the door startles everyone. It's Etienne, the miller's boy, face gaunt and red-nosed. He doesn't say anything, just holds up a basket. Inside is a lump of blackened dough. You trade him 2 onions and a cracked mug. He shrugs, pockets the onions, and walks away without a word. You take a bite. It's like chewing a lump of wet ashes. Still you chew. Outside, the smoke from the fire is still curling into the sky. You realize that no one tried to save the roof. There was nothing to save, and no one screamed. You're starting to think that the Great Famine isn't just killing people. It's devouring the noise, too. You spend most of the morning with that taste of burned rye stuck in your teeth. It's bitter, gritty, like the soot scraped off a chimney brick, and it sits in your stomach like a dare. Outside, the cold hangs on everything like wet wool. The village square is quiet, but you can feel tension in the air the same way you feel an approaching storm. People are gathered, not to trade, not even to beg, but to listen, and that's worse. You spot the bailiff standing on a barrel near the church wall. He doesn't shout, doesn't need to. The look on his face already says enough. The grain carts from Rouen have been turned back. That's all he says. Turn back. No reasons. No timeline. No offers. Just gone. And no one cries out. A few gasp. One woman sinks to the ground. Someone mutters, "Liars." Another, again. You stand there, feeling nothing and everything. The carts haven't arrived for 2 winters now. You'd hoped. That was your mistake. The famine began with rain, relentless, unseasonal, cold. In 1315, it rained so hard the fields drowned. In 1316, they never dried. Bread prices soared. Livestock starved in the muck. And now, in 1317, you're living the aftermath. Mainstream history remembers this as the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317, though some argue it stretched longer, depending on where you lived and how many rats you were willing to eat. The village baker's son says there were rumors of cannibalism in Paris last month. You hope he's lying, but he said it while licking his lips, so, yeah, you slip away from the square before someone decides to do something stupid. Anger comes cheap when there's no bread. Back home, your mother's trying to mash old peas into a thin gruel. They're so shriveled. It's like cooking with gravel. You help her grind them in a mortar. Every scrape echoes through the hut like a cough. "We'll go to the cellar tonight," she whispers. You nod. The root cellar is a game of chance now. Sometimes you find potato. Sometimes you find mold that looks like it might eat you. But even bad food is food. Outside, a man walks past holding a sack that's clearly empty. Still, he clutches it like treasure. He's walking toward the forest, and you don't ask why. Your father used to tell stories about wolves in those woods. Now the wolves are just another hungry neighbor. Later that afternoon, the wind picks up, not strong, just enough to rattle shutters and whisper through cracks. It whistles under the eaves like a voice. You remember how last spring the wind smelled like blossoms and bread. Now it smells like smoke and the wet rot of unturned soil. A child throws up near the well. No one helps her. You meet eyes with an old woman across the path. She's wearing shoes made from bark strips and a coat that's mostly holes. She doesn't blink, just stares. There's a story someone told about an abbey nearby, where the monks burned their library for heat. Historians still argue whether they lost priceless knowledge or just a lot of very boring sermons. Either way, the abbey's warm now. That's all anyone remembers. As night falls, your belly growls with the hollow pride of having eaten. Technically, you curl up on the straw pallet next to your sister. She's humming something tuneless. Maybe a lullaby, maybe a dream. Your mother whispers a prayer, soft and slow, the kind that doesn't ask for miracles, just survival. You don't sleep right away, not from fear. You're just waiting for the silence to deepen, for the mice in the walls to scurry, for your stomach to stop twisting. And outside, the sky stays gray. Even the stars don't show up anymore. The root cellar is colder than the outside world. You descend the creaking steps with a stub of tallow candle, its weak light dancing across damp stone walls. The air smells of mildew, rust, and something sour that never quite goes away. Your mother follows close behind, carrying the key. She never lets anyone else hold it anymore. Not after last month, when the neighbors borrowed half a sack of barley and left behind a pile of chewed husks and rat droppings in its place. The door groans open like a creature being disturbed mid-nap. Inside, it's worse than you feared. 2 shriveled onions, a cracked jar of pickled dandelion stems, and a wooden crate containing Well, you're not sure. Possibly turnips. Possibly lumps of gray fungus cosplaying as turnips. You reach for one, and it squelches. The skin sloughs off in your hand, revealing black fuzz underneath. Not again. Don't touch it, your mother says. Her voice is too tired to sound stern. She reaches for another one and holds it up to the candlelight. It looks edible, in the way that raw toe might look edible after 3 days of no meals. There are maybe 5 roots in decent condition. That's 3 days of food if you ration them and pretend you're not living in a world that once knew butter. You each take one. You carry yours upstairs like a prize. Historians still argue whether rural communities like yours experienced organized rationing or if it was every house for itself. Based on the way Madame Fournier tried to claw a leak from your brother's arms last week, you're leaning toward the latter. At the hearth, you slice the turnip thin, so thin you can almost see light through the pieces. Your sister thinks it makes it taste better that way. You don't argue. You toss them into the pot with yesterday's water and what's left of the thistle leaves. It smells like wet socks and sadness, but it's hot. That's what matters. You ladle it out carefully. 4 bowls. 4 people. No seconds. Your brother slurps as noisily and asks if there's bread. You stare at him like he's just asked for roast duck. Go to the loft and get the blanket. Your mother says instead, the wool one. Tonight will be colder. You climb the ladder and crawl into the hayloft. The blanket is thin, patchy, but it still smells faintly of sheep. You pause and press your face into it. It reminds you of before, when winter meant festivals, not funerals. You descend to find your mother quietly crying. She wipes her face fast, but not fast enough. No one says anything. Outside, a dog barks once, then stops. You wonder if it's still a dog or something less recognizable now. Later, as you sit by the hearth, you hear shouting from the road. You press your face to the shutter and peer out. A group of villagers is marching toward the granary. Torches flicker. Someone's yelling about hoarded grain, about justice. You've heard that word a lot lately. Justice is apparently what happens right before someone's teeth are knocked out with a wooden spoon. The bailiff shows up. He's not in armor, just a wool tunic and a tired expression. He tries to reason with them. It does not go well. A rock flies. Someone screams. The door to the granary slams shut. It's unclear if someone's been locked in or locked out. You close the shutter. Your mother murmurs, "Fools." But you're not sure. Maybe fools are the ones still waiting politely in line for food that doesn't come. Your sister dozes beside you, hands still wrapped around her spoon. She's barely 5, but looks like a sparrow who lost a fight with the wind. You stay awake long after everyone else is snoring, not because of hunger, because of the cellar. There's maybe one more trip left in it before it turns into a tomb of rot and hope. You whisper a quiet thanks to the turnip in your belly, which is honestly the most absurd sentence you've ever thought. But tonight, absurdity feels a little like survival. The bell rings before dawn. Not the clear, comforting clang of feast days or weddings, but the slow, dragging toll that echoes across the frozen fields like a warning. You don't need to be told. Someone's died. Again. You lie still under the thin wool blanket. Pretend to sleep, hoping it will go away if you ignore it. It doesn't. Your mother stirs beside you. "Church," she says simply. You get up because that's what you do, not because it helps, not because it's comforting, just because it's something. The walk is short. Every path in the village leads to the church eventually. It sits on the small hill like a stone mother hen, cracked and worn by centuries of cold, but still standing. You pass the same hollow-eyed neighbors, each trudging to the mud with heads down, scarves up. Inside, it's freezing. The stone walls hold on to cold like a secret. Candles flicker dimly, and the smoke from the incense hangs low in the air like fog in a cave. The priest is already there, droning Latin from memory. No name is spoken. No family wails. The coffin is too small. You sit on the splintered bench and try not to shiver. Not from the cold, just from being here. In normal years, these pews would be packed on feast days, filled with the smells of fresh bread and strong soap, whispers of courting and gossip. Now, the church feels more like a crypt that forgot to close its doors. The priest's voice cracks slightly as he switches from Latin to French. God tests us. He says this every week. Just as Job was tested in Uzi, so too are we tested in France. Through hunger, through frost, through loss. You glance sideways at the woman next to you. Her eyes are open but unfocused. Her hands are red from cold and raw from washing the same shirt every day in freezing water. Someone coughs behind you, not a polite throat clearing, a deep, wet, hollow cough that makes everyone flinch. You wonder if that's how it starts. Historians still argue whether the famine directly paved the way for the Black Death, or if it merely softened the world's spine first. You don't know about plagues, but you do know that when people are this weak, anything can break them. When the priest finishes, he steps down with a sigh, not a benediction. There's no procession, just a quiet shuffle toward the exit, as if everyone's hoping no one notices them. Outside, the cold wind whips through the cemetery. You pause beside a grave marked by nothing but a stone. The snow's blown most of the dirt away. There's not much left to cover. You count 5 new mounds since last week. You overhear a few old men talking near the gate. Forest folk found frozen. Couldn't get a fire started. Shouldn't have left the village. You don't look at them. You've thought about leaving too, but there's nowhere to go. All around you are rumors that the king will send help, that merchants will bring food from Flanders, that the Pope is praying for France and Rome. You'd believe in unicorns sooner. The walk back home feels heavier than usual. You pass the bakery. Its windows are shuttered, the chimney cold. The baker died last month, and no one took his place. Why would they? There's nothing to bake. You reach your cottage. Your mother is already feeding your sister hot water with dried mint. It's not soup, just something warm. She nods at you. We'll go gather wood. You sigh. You hate the woods. The woods hate you back. But without fire, you'll freeze before you starve. As you pull on your worn boots and wrap the scarf tight, you think about the priest's words, about Job, about testing. You don't feel tested. You feel forgotten. The bell tolls again as you step outside. Not for prayer, for another body. The woods are quieter than the village. Not peaceful, just watchful. You've always hated the way the trees seem to lean in when the wind dies down, as if they're listening. And today, the cold makes everything louder. Twigs snapping underfoot sound like cracks in bone. Your mother walks ahead, dragging the small handcart you made from a broken door and 2 wagon wheels. It wobbles and squeaks, but it's better than carrying a bundle of damp branches in your arms. You're looking for firewood. Again, there's no more fallen stuff near the edge. Too many people have come through here with the same idea. You head deeper. Last winter, this would have been foolish. The risk of wolves was real, but now, even wolves have better places to be. The real danger is other people. Somewhere to your left, you hear movement. Footsteps, maybe, or a deer. You grip the hatchet tighter. After half an hour, you find a small stack of branches buried under snow, half frozen, but dry enough to burn. You load them into the cart. It's slow work, and your fingers go numb even to the wool rags tied around your hands. Your mother says nothing, just watches the trees. Do you think they'll come tonight? You ask quietly. She doesn't answer. You don't have to explain who they are. Last week, someone broke into the Fournier house and stole a jar of lard. The week before, the priest's chickens vanished. Everyone knows who it is, starving men from the hills. Or maybe it's just the starving us, walking in our sleep, doing what we won't admit in daylight. You drag the cart back slowly. The village feels smaller when you return, as if the cold has shrunk the world. At home, your brother is waiting with a look on his face you don't like. You recognize it. Hope. You set the cart down. "We still have the cow," he says. You blink. It takes a moment to register what he means. You still have the cow, the last one in the village. A spindly, frostbitten thing with ribs like a washboard and eyes too big for its head. She hasn't given milk in weeks. She spends her days huddled behind the hut, chewing nothing and staring at nothing. She's going to die anyway, your brother says. Your mother closes her eyes. You say nothing. You don't want to say yes, but saying no feels like a luxury. You light the fire. The wood hisses and spits, but it burns. That's what matters. The room fills with warmth that smells of moss and sap and salvation. After dark, you gather near the hearth. No one speaks about the cow. Your sister is curled in your lap, tracing shapes on your sleeve. She's lost 3 teeth in the last week, none from age. Later, your brother steps outside. You follow him quietly. The cow is lying in the mud, breath steaming in short bursts. Your brother stands over her with the knife. "You want me to do it?" he asks, not looking at you. You don't answer. You just step forward, hand out. The cow looks at you, not in fear, just tired. You could swear she nods. The knife is fast. You're not a butcher, but you've learned. Everyone's learning things they never wanted to know. You say a prayer you only half remember. Some historians argue that famine reshaped faith in Europe, turning hope into ritual, ritual into superstition. They say people lost their trust in God or found darker gods in their stead. You just bury your hands in warm blood and try not to be sick. The meat will last 3 days, maybe 4. Your sister will smile again. That night, the fire burns higher. You feel something close to full. It scares you more than hunger ever did. The next morning begins with silence, so thick it presses against your ears. Not peace, not quiet. The kind of silence that comes when everyone's chewing something they don't want to talk about. Breakfast is meat, actual meat, boiled in a broth so thin it might as well be flavored steam, but it's still meat. Your sister giggles for the first time in weeks. She doesn't know where it came from. Not really. She just calls it soup. You envy her. The rest of you chew slowly, reverently. Your brother makes a joke about it tasting like victory, and you all laugh too hard because the alternative is crying. There's no salt. You ran out months ago. No herbs. No garlic. Just gray meat, boiled until it gives up. Still it's hot. It's soft. And for once, you feel full enough to think about something other than hunger. You think about the past. You remember birthdays with honey cake. Bread so fresh it steamed when torn. Cheese that crumbled on the tongue. Roast goose rich and golden, carved with laughter and stolen bites before grace. Now your dreams smell like boiled leather and wilted nettles. You once tried to eat a belt. You don't want to talk about it. After breakfast, you help your mother wash the pot with snow. There's a kind of eerie efficiency in everything now. No waste. No idle movements. No hope. Just survival. You step outside to find your neighbor crouched by her door, gnawing on something. She sees you looking and hides it fast. You pretend you didn't notice. Later, the baker's empty oven smokes for the first time in months. You approach, drawn by the smell. A new loaf is resting on the stone ledge inside, charred at the edges, shaped oddly. You ask what it's made of. He says, dried thistle, grass paste, and linen fiber. You blink. Old prayer cloths, he clarifies. You don't ask which saint they belong to. You take a bite. It's like chewing canvas soaked in bitter tea. But it's chewy and warm. That's enough. That evening, a boy named Luke arrives at your door. He's out of breath, pale, and holding something wrapped in a rag. "I found this," he whispers. "It's a dead bird, not a chicken, not even a pigeon. A starling, barely the size of your palm." He grins like he's found treasure. You let him in. Your mother plucks it over the fire, fingers working with quick, practiced skill. She says nothing, but you notice the way she keeps wiping her eyes, even though there's no smoke. The bird feeds 3 of you. You give your sister the skin. She holds it like a treat. After dinner, someone bangs on the door. Your heart stutters. Not fear, just readiness. It's the priest. He's wrapped in a wool cloak too fine for this village, and you notice, with an odd flash of anger, that he doesn't look thin. "May I come in?" he asks. You hesitate. He enters anyway. "I bring news," he says, warming his hands by the fire. "The Bishop of Amiens has declared a fast day." You blink. "Another one?" He nods solemnly. "A spiritual sacrifice, to show God our humility." Your brother snorts. "We haven't eaten for 3 days straight. What's humbler than that?" The priest doesn't laugh. He says a few words about God's mercy, about patience, about how suffering makes saints. You think about the saints. How many of them died of starvation or torture or loneliness? You're not aiming for sainthood. You're just trying to make it to spring. Historians still debate whether the church offered real comfort during the famine or simply amplified guilt. Whether sermons soothed starving souls or sharpened despair. You feel neither soothed nor sharpened, just tired. The priest leaves with your last piece of bark bread. He says it will feed a widow. You hope it's true. That night, you lie under the blanket and listen to your mother breathe. She hums an old tune, not a lullaby, something older. You don't know the words. You close your eyes, belly warm, heart cold, and try to remember the taste of salt. You wake to whispers, low and fast, like wind through dried reeds. But it's not the wind, it's people, whispering outside your window, voices carrying sharp and quick through the cold morning air. You lift the shutter just a crack. For figures stand huddled near the edge of the village, close to the broken windmill. One of them holds a lantern wrapped in cloth, the light barely escaping. Another clutches something long and straight, maybe a hoe, maybe a spear. You don't recognize their faces at first. Then you do. It's Tomas the Cooper. He was begging for food just 2 days ago. The man beside him, Edouard, his wife died last month. The other 2 are strangers. You watch as they slip around the windmill and vanish behind it. You shouldn't follow. So, of course, you do. You creep barefoot down the frost-rimed path, teeth clenched against a bite of stone and ice. The windmill is a ruin, its sails rotted, gears splintered, the entire structure leaning like an old man caught mid-sneeze. Behind it, the 4 men are gathered around something covered by a burlap sack. You crouch, just out of view, breath held. They pull back the sack. A sack of grain. No, 2 sacks. Flour, by the looks of it. Not clean white flour, coarse and gray, but real. Your heart stumbles. Tomas whispers, "We do it tonight." Edouard grunts. "We wait longer. Someone else takes it." The strangers nod. You understand. They're planning a theft. A raid on the granary. It's not locked anymore. Not since the riot last week. But it's watched. "They'll hang us if we're caught," one mutters. Tomas shrugs. "We're dying anyway." You back away slowly. Later, back home, your mother asks where you went. You say nowhere. She doesn't believe you. That night, the air feels different. Electric, like the sky is holding its breath. You sit by the fire and slice turnip skin into shapes for your sister. She laughs and names them Goose, Boot, Angel. Your brother's sharpening a knife. Not casually, not for food. No one speaks about the windmill. At midnight, the church bell rings once. It's not supposed to. You bolt upright. Seconds later, shouting. Then another sound, with splintering. The granary. You run to the window. Flames. Someone lit a torch. You can't see clearly, but you hear it. Screams. Panic. Feet pounding on mud and stone. Someone blows a horn. Not a war horn, just an old cow horn. But the sound is enough. The village erupts. Men with torches. Women screaming for children. A dog barking madly, then whimpering. You catch sight of Tomas, face lit by fire, eyes wild, carrying a sack of flour like a newborn. A guard chases him with a pitchfork. You close the shutter. You hear a voice cry out, then goes silent. The fire doesn't last long. Nothing here is dry enough to burn well anymore. By morning, the granary is just blackened timbers and smoldering shame. 2 men are dead. One is Tomas. The other you don't recognize. The priest says it was judgment. Your brother says it was justice. Historians still argue whether these small uprisings were isolated or part of a broader resistance against feudal hoarding. You think they were neither. Just men with empty stomachs and a little too much night. Your mother finds you staring into the coal hearth. She places a slice of parsnip in your hand. Thin, burn at the edges. You eat it without tasting. Outside, the windmill still stands. But the sacks are gone. The cart comes every morning now. It's not official, not something the crown sends or the church ordains. It's just old Bernard and his mule, dragging a wooden cart with one wobbly wheel and a layer of straw at the bottom to soak up the fluids. You hear before you see it. The creak of the axle, the clop of hooves, the soft knock of wood against frozen ruts. And always that smell. The death cart doesn't ring a bell or call out names. There's no ceremony, no farewell. It just rolls through the village like a fact of life, like frost or hunger. You open the door and watch it pass. This morning, there are 3 bodies in it. 2 are shrouded in linen, their outline stiff and angular. One isn't covered at all, just a bare foot sticking out from under a torn coat. A woman's foot, pale, toes curled. You look away. Your sister asks what's in the cart. You lie. Firewood. She nods, too hungry to care. That afternoon, you help Bernard shovel snow off the chapel steps. Not for piety, for bread. He says he'll trade you a biscuit. You work until your fingers bleed through the wool. He gives you half. It's hard, stale, probably 3 weeks old. It's the best thing you've tasted in a month. Back home, you divide it into 4 slivers. No one says thank you, but your mother touches your arm as she takes hers. And that's enough. Later, in the square, they bury the bodies in trench. No coffins, no names, just a cross made from a stick. The priest mumbles a blessing no one listens to. You stay to help fill the grave. The ground is so frozen the shovels bounce. You use a pickaxe to break through. Nearby, 2 children play with dead bird. Historians still debate how many people died in France during the Great Famine. Some say 10% of the population. Others say more. But the truth is, no one counted. Especially not here. That night, you dream of food. Not a feast. Just a bowl of porridge. Warm. Thick. With a drizzle of honey on top. You wake up crying. Not because of the dream. Because of how real it felt. The next day, a noble carriage appears. That alone is strange enough. Carriages don't come here. Nothing comes here but mud, death, and rumors. The wheels are clean. The horses look fed. You stare from behind a fence as a man in velvet steps down. He's too clean for this place. He doesn't flinch at the smell. The village elder greets him. There are hushed words. Some silver changes hands. Then the nobleman makes a speech. We come bearing grain. The crowd stiffens. It's true. Behind the carriage are 2 wagons covered in tarps, barrels and sacks. Real food. He says it's a gift from the local baron, that he heard of our suffering, that he couldn't let his people die. Your mother scoffs softly. Where's he been for 3 years? Your brother whispers, probably waiting for the price to go up. You watch as the sacks are handed out, 1 per family. Yours is heavy, coarse flour, some beans, even a bit of dried fruit. You want to believe it's mercy, but you're not a child anymore. You know it's something else. A few villagers bow. You don't. That night, the hearth is full, the pot is full, and your belly is full. You still feel empty. The next morning, the noble is gone, but the flour remains. You use it sparingly. A handful here, a pinch there. Your mother makes flatbread on the hearthstone, each round a miracle. Your sister claps when she sees a puff, and for once, the sound doesn't feel out of place. For 2 days, the village breathes again. You hear humming, laughter, even arguments that don't end in sobs. You don't trust it. On the 3rd day, your suspicions prove right. It starts with a boy. Jean-Luc, the shepherd's son, vomits during Mass. Not the usual dry heaves. No, this time it's everything. Bile, blood, panic. By sundown, 3 more fall sick. The next morning, 12. You check the sack of grain. It looks fine. But you remember the whispers from the windmill, that the baron had too much grain left unsold, that it had rotted in storage before he sent out, that it had weevils and mold, and someone just swept them away and hoped no one noticed. Your brother breaks the flour into a bowl and sniffs it. It smells clean, he says, but you remember what poison rice smells like. Nothing at all. Historians still argue whether noble donations during the famine were acts of charity or calculated sacrifices, getting rid of spoiled stock while earning the church's praise. You pour the flour back into the sack and tie it tight, just in case. Meanwhile, the sick are moved to the church. It's the only building big enough. The priest prays over them, dabbing their lips with wine and muttering Latin no one remembers how to translate. A woman screams through the night. You don't ask who it was. You don't want to know. On the 5th day, the flour is taken away. The bailiff collects what's left of every family's ration and buries it outside the village. You watch him shovel, chest heaving, the same way he did when he buried Tomas. You don't help. The noble doesn't return. Rumor says he died on the road back to Rouen. Horse threw him. Neck snapped. Another version claims he ate his own flour. Poetic, if nothing else. With the grain gone, the silence returns. But something's shifted. The people are quieter now, but not in that tired, hopeless way. It's colder, harder. That week, someone breaks into the church storeroom. Not for food, for wine. They drink it in the cemetery. You see them through the trees. 3 men, passing the bottle, faces lit by candlelight and frost. One of them sings, loud, off-key. You laugh just once. It hurts your throat. Back home, the mood is strange. Not despair, not hope. Something suspended between the two, like the village is holding its breath, waiting to see what will rot next. Your mother is boiling bones. Again, no meat left on them. But the broth is warm, and that's what counts. You sip slowly, savoring the steam. Your sister uses her fingers to draw pictures in the condensation on the wall. One looks like a sun. You wish it was. Your brother leans close and whispers, "Next time, we don't eat anything we didn't see harvested." You nod. You've learned. All of you have. lessons etched in hunger and stained with the ashes of bad bread. You crawl into bed that night with a blanket over your head and one foot stuck out for balance. You've started doing that again, something from childhood, as if a monster would see the foot and think twice. You dream of a banquet, tables of meat, bright candles, silver platters. In the dream, you eat and never feel full. You wake up chewing your own sleeve. Rain. It comes suddenly, like it forgot to be gentle. You wake to the sound of it, relentless, pounding cold. Not the warm spring kind that smells of grass and hope. This rain is metallic and angry, splashing into every crack, soaking through thatch, dripping through roofs like needles. Your mother throws a rag over the leak in the corner. It doesn't help. Outside, the world is a slurry of mud and bones. The fields flood instantly. All the furrows you helped dig are now little rivers, carrying away what was barely beginning to sprout. Your brother slogs through it, trying to salvage something from the turnip patch. He comes back with 2 broken stalks and a handful of soaked root mush. You dump it into the pot anyway. This rain doesn't stop. 1 day, 2, then 5. Historians still wonder what caused the multi-year deluge of the early 1300s. Volcanic activity? A shift in ocean currents? Divine punishment? Whatever was, the result was the same. Drowned crops, rotted grain. Famine on a biblical scale. By the 7th day, the river has overflowed. Half the village paths are underwater. You watch your neighbors wade past with skirts hitched to their knees and faces like stone. You see the coffin of a long-dead farmer float up from the churchyard. No one bothers to rebury it. You try to keep the fire going, but the smoke chokes and sputters. The wood is damp. Everything is damp. The house smells of mildew and broth and the soft, sour stink of wet wool. Your sister coughs at night. You keep touching her forehead. It's not warm. Yet, the one comfort is that the rats are gone. Drowned, probably. Or maybe they finally ran out of things to steal. By day 10, the road to the next village is impassable. You hear shouting from across the floodplain. Voice is carried by wind. You shout back. No one answers. You haven't had dry clothes in a week. Your fingers are wrinkled and pale. Your nails are soft. Your mother wraps your hands in linen soaked in vinegar to stop the itching. At night, you hear the field shifting. Not wind, not animals, just the sound of soil breaking apart and floating away. A farmer named Henri tries to dig a drainage trench. The next morning, they find him face down in a pool, drowned in 5 inches of water. The priest calls it humility. Your brother calls it the dumbest death I've ever seen. You snort into your cup of boiled nettle. It's the closest you've come to laughing in days. The rain keeps falling. The well water turns cloudy. You boil it twice now. Your mother cuts up old wool and teaches your sister how to braid it into wicks. You light one that night. It sputters but stays. The flickering shadow makes your little one's face look healthy. Almost. You sit beside the window and listen to the world rot. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stops. Not a slow drizzle fading off. Just silence. No wind. No birds. No movement. You step outside and stare at the sky. It's not blue. It's not even gray. Just white, pale, and empty like someone scraped the color out of it with a knife. Below, the village is a swamp. The fields are gone. The grain is gone. But the rain is gone. The morning after the rain ends, you wake to the smell of something impossible. Roasted onions. You sit up so fast you smack your head on a low rafter. You don't even rub it. You're already at the window. Smoke, thin and fragrant, curling from the Fournier chimney. Your first thought isn't envy. It's suspicion. You pull on your damp boots and step outside. The mud sucks at your feet with each step. sticky and unkind. Halfway to the Fournier house, you hear it, singing, low and sweet, like a lullaby hummed through a smile. You stop. That sound hasn't existed here in months. You press your ear to the window. The words are nonsense. Something about a golden spoon and a dancing cow. But the voice, Madame Fournier. She hasn't spoken above a whisper since her husband died in the frost. And now she's singing. You knock. She doesn't answer. You knock again. The door creaks open a crack. Her eyes gleam behind it. They came, she says, her voice flat. The saints. You blink. Who? She opens the door wider. Inside, the hearth glows. 3 onions roast slowly on a flat stone. The air is thick with their sweetness. They gave me these, she whispers. The saints. Last night. She gestures the floor, where a crude drawing is etched into the ash. 2 stick figures with halos and wings. You take a step back. Madame Fournier isn't well, but those onions are real. You ask where she found them. She only smiles. By afternoon, 2 more villagers report visions. One says St. Andrew handed him a basket of figs in a dream. He woke up chewing leaves. Another claims a Virgin Mary kissed her forehead and left a sprig of rosemary on her pillow. You'd laugh if the rosemary hadn't been real. That evening, your sister asks if angels are real. You pause. Maybe, you say. Sometimes. Your mother says nothing. Later, she tells you these stories aren't new. During famines, people see what they need. In Ireland, there were tales of cows returning from the dead. In the Alps, saints were said to plant ghost wheat. Starvation wears down the wall between dreams and waking. Historians still argue whether these accounts were divine, delusional, or deliberate, used by the church to inspire faith or by people to soften despair. You only know they're spreading. One man paints crosses in lamb's blood above every door. Another drinks snowmelt and declares a holy water. You sit by the fire and watch the flames move like wings. Your brother whispers, "You think she made those onions up?" You shake your head. They smelled real. He nods, then adds, "So's a mold in the flour sack." Neither of you laughs, but you can't stop thinking about the smile on Madame Fournier's face. She looked happy, as if she knew something you didn't. That night, you dream of bread, not a feast, just a single loaf. Soft, warm, split open by hand. A man with golden eyes hands it to you. You wake up clutching your blanket, and you swear, for just a second, you can taste it. The snow returns in the night. Not a blizzard, just a quiet, steady fall that hushes the world like a secret. You wake to find the village covered in white again, a fresh layer that disguises the mud and the blood beneath it. Your sister presses her face to the window and whispers, "It looks clean." She's right. For a moment, it does. Then you see the tracks. Not footprints, drag marks from the woods, across the field, straight toward your shed. You slip on your coat and boots before anyone else notices. The tracks are fresh, deep, 2 parallel trenches, something heavy pulled through snow and slush. At the shed door, they vanish inside. You take a breath, push it open. Your brother is there. So is the carcass. A dog, big, frozen stiff, patches of her missing ribs exposed. Its lips are curled back as if still snarling at death itself. Your brother doesn't look up. He's holding the hatchet. "I didn't kill it," he says quickly. "Found it near the woods. Must have died last night." You nod, slowly. You want to ask him why he brought it here, why he didn't just leave it, why he thinks this is what you are now. But you already know. He stands. "It's meat." You close the door behind you. That evening, no one asks what's in the pot. Even your mother says nothing. Your sister eats slowly, chewing with her eyes closed, as if pretending it's something else. You follow suit. The meat is tough, sour, tinged with something metallic, but no one stops. When the pot is empty, the silence that follows is almost worse than the hunger. Later, you sit outside on steps. The stars are visible tonight, sharp pinpricks in the black sky, cold and clear. You haven't seen them in months. You think about the dog. Its eyes have been open. Your brother comes out and sits beside you. "We shouldn't tell her," he says. You know who he means. You don't answer. He adds, "It was already dead." You nod, as if that makes it better. Historians often skip over stories like this. They write about harvests and taxes, kings and councils. But in the margins, there are records, hints, mentions of unusual protein sources, and debates, always debates, about whether the desperation drove people to madness or simply stripped away pretense. You don't feel mad. You just feel awake. Your breath fogs in the air. Your stomach no longer hurts. That should bring relief. Instead, it brings guilt. That night, you dream of the dog. Not as it was, but how it might have looked once, healthy, bounding through tall grass, tongue lolling, tail wagging. It stops at your feet and looks up at you, eyes full of something too human. You wake before it speaks. In the morning, your sister is building a snow creature in the yard. "It's a bear," she says proudly. It has a turnip for a nose. You smile, even though your chest aches. Somehow, through all of it, she's still a child. You don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. The smell hits you first. It's sharp, sweet, familiar in the worst way, like scorched almonds, old coins, and the ghost of something once alive. You step out of the house and follow your nose down the muddy lane, past the empty well and the shattered fence, toward the old smithy. The fire there hasn't burned since the smith died 2 months ago. Fell asleep drunk in the snow, they said. But today, there's smoke curling from the chimney again. You're not the only one who noticed. 3 other villagers stand outside the door, whispering. You push it open. Inside, it's hot. A crude oven has been built from piled bricks and a grate. A woman is pulling loaves from it, steam curling off the crusts. She sees you and grins. Her teeth are yellow. You recognize her. Camille, once a washerwoman, now something else entirely. She places a loaf on the table. You step closer. There's something wrong with it. It's grayish. The smell is stronger now. Acrid. Not wheat. Not barley. You look at the sack of powder she's using. Bone meal. Ground bone. You can see fragments. Bits of white, porous and splintered. Someone's shin. Someone's jaw. She says, "It holds together better if you bake it slow." Your stomach turns. You glance at the others. No one speaks. One man picks up a loaf and bites into it. His eyes close. He sways slightly. He chews. Swallows. And then he says, "It's not bad." Your legs move on their own. Back out the door. Into the open air. You lean against the wall and fight the urge to retch. Back at home, you say nothing. But later, your brother returns with something wrapped in cloth. He sets it on the table. A loaf. You know where it came from. You stare at it. No one moves. Then your mother slices it. The crust crumbles. The center is dense. Heavy. Your sister picks up a piece and waits. You want to scream, but you don't, because you've already made your decision. You eat it. It's dry. A little gritty. There's a taste you can't name. But you chew and swallow. It sits in your stomach like a stone. Your mother says quietly, "It's not a sin if we didn't kill them." No one disagrees. Some historians call this the famine's darkest hour. They cite court records, whispers, and monastic journals. Skeletal remains found in old village pits with marks too clean to be animal teeth. Others deny it, say the accounts were exaggerated, that people imagine horrors to match their fear. You know better. You lived it. That night, the fire burns high. The bread is gone. Your sister sleeps soundly. And you lie awake, thinking of what you become. Not monstrous, not evil, just empty in a new way, and somehow still hungry. You find yourself lying to your sister more often now, not just to protect her, but to protect yourself. Her questions are sharper than you expect. Will we eat again tomorrow? Is spring still coming? Did the bread really have bones in it? To the last one, you blinked and said, "Of course not." She believed you, or pretended to. Outside, the village creaks forward like a half-broken wheel. Nothing moves easily. Everyone looks thinner. Even the dogs have stopped barking. They just slink, ribs showing, eyes hollow, like ghosts who never learned to float. One night, your mother builds a fire a little bigger than usual. She even pulls out the good pot. It still leaks, but the crack has been patched with mud and prayer. She makes a story of it, tells your sister it's a feast. You all play along. Your brother mimes polishing a spoon to see his reflection. You pretend to sniff the stew and swoon. Your mother hums while she stirs. Even though the only thing inside is a soup made from boiled grass, half a beet, and the last of the powdered bark. You take small sips and make big noises. Your sister laughs. It's pretend, but the warmth feels real. Later, she asks for a story. You tell her one about a girl who found a magical orchard under her house, where apples grew in winter and bread rolled itself in cinnamon, where no one ever went hungry. Your mother gives you a small smile. When your sister falls asleep, your brother mutters, "That's a cruel story." You shrug. She smiled. He pokes the fire. You think it's cruel to lie like that? You say, "Only if she wakes up hungry." There's a silence between you, thick as stew. Eventually, he says, "There's a boy missing." You look up. Luke, from the next hut over. Haven't seen him in 2 days. You remember his face, freckles, scabs, a grin too big for his frame. You remember the dead bird he brought you. You don't ask questions. But later, when you go to the edge of the woods for kindling, you see something half buried in snow. It might be a jacket. It might be nothing. You walk away, back in the hut. Your mother is holding the sack of flour you saved from the Baron's gift, the flour you thought had been buried. She looks up. "I never gave it back," she whispers. "I kept some, just in case." You sit down beside her. You don't ask if it's safe. You don't ask if it's right. You just help her sift it. She adds water, a touch of ash, and shapes it into something almost like dough. You make small flat cakes and lay them near the coals. When they bubble, your mother says, "They look like the ones my mother made." They don't, but you gnaw it anyway. You all eat together, slowly, reverently, pretending it's the past, pretending the future still has space for things like yeast and butter and cake. Your sister falls asleep with a crumb still on her lip. You wipe it away gently and whisper to no one in particular, "Spring is coming," even if it isn't. When the snow finally starts to melt, it does so without ceremony. There's no grand thaw, no dramatic sunshine breaking through clouds like a painting. Just drip, 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 day after day, soft and slow, until the world turns to mud. You wake one morning to the sound of water seeping to the roof again, but this time it's not rain. It's ice surrendering. Outside, puddles have formed where paths used to be. The fields, once white and still, now ripple with brown slush and drowned roots. The trees creak as they thaw, shedding their frozen skins like old snakes. You step outside and feel something rare, air that doesn't bite. It's not warm, but it's not trying to kill you. Your sister runs barefoot through the muck, squealing as the mud squishes between her toes. Your mother doesn't scold her. No one has that kind of energy anymore. You glance toward the fields. There are green shoots, tiny, fragile, and already nibbled by rabbits. Your brother squats beside them, poking the dirt like it's going to answer. "It's something," he mutters. You nod. It is. But it's not salvation. The thaw doesn't bring food, just clearer visibility of how little you have. The corpses that have been buried shallow now rise with the water. The graves slump inward. You hear a woman scream one morning when she finds her husband's face peering through the puddle. The well floods. The church floods. The root cellars fill with water and rot. Hope doesn't float. It dissolves. Yet people start planting. Not because it's wise. Not because the soil is ready. Just because they have nothing left to do. Your mother digs barehanded, nails splitting, teeth clenched. Your brother sharpens tools that can barely cut twine. You spend a day carrying buckets of silt away from the fields. It sloshes down your back, thick and cold. You don't complain. You hear talk of a merchant coming through, bringing salt, maybe even oats. But the bridge washed out, and no one wants to swim to the marsh to find out. That night, the fire is low, not because you've run out of wood, but because no one lit it higher. The warmth feels like too much now. Your sister sleeps soundly, cheek resting against your leg. Your mother hums, the same tuneless melody you've heard every night for weeks. You ask her what it is. She shrugs. Something my mother sang. It didn't have words. You lie back and stare at the ceiling, watching condensation form and fall. Over and over. The rhythm is gentle, almost calming. Historians still debate how long the famine's grip lasted in villages like yours. Some say 1317 marked the end. Others argue the hunger lingered for years in the soil, in the lungs, in the hearts. You think they're all wrong. It never ends. Not really. It becomes a layer you wear, a scar beneath the skin, a memory so deep that even the scent of soup can make you cry. But tonight, you don't cry. You just breathe and listen to the meltwater outside, to your sister's soft snore, to the quiet sound of a world trying, just trying, to start again. The next morning comes gently. There's no smoke, no screams, no hunger pang so sharp it wakes you in the dark. Just pale morning light filtering through the shutter slats. A rooster crows, hoarse and confused, but somehow triumphant. You rise slowly. Your muscles ache less today. Your mother stirs the pot with one hand and rests the other on your sister's back. The room smells faintly of roots and salt. Outside, someone laughs. Really laughs. A cart rolls through the village square, this time not for bodies, but for planting tools. The driver whistles a tune you don't know. Your brother waves to a neighbor. She waves back. You step into the sun. It's not warm. Not yet. But it's there. And for now, that's enough. You tilt your face upward, eyes closed. And for the first time in what feels like forever, you allow yourself to hope.